Okay, welcome to this developer update. I'll still be doing the presentation style, but that takes more time to actually make the presentation, and that's designed to be more like the design document, basically what the plans are and how I end up implementing them. And this way, this update actually shows how the implementation went. And as you can see, I can move the player object in 8 directions and it collects properly to the wall. Those characters on the left are a special debug object. It has an array of lines and it renders that line. And if I want to see a value, I just throw that value into one of those lines, and I can see it. So I can see what values are as the game is running. The first line is special. It has like state values of the game itself, kind of global variables. And like, for example, it has the desktop. That's the platform it's running. It's able to detect which platform it's running, whether it's desktop, browser, mobile, Windows 8 Store modern style or modern with touch, being that the different platforms have different features, different input devices they can handle. Like for example, the desktop, one thing the desktop can do that no other platform can do is it can resize the window. Like this, times 3. This is the actual size of the window, and times 2. And of course, it's pointless to resize the window size on a mobile. Yeah. So it only is allowed on the desktop. It will only work on the desktop. And actually, also the color changes depending on the platform. And it also says the type of input that's active right now, which is keyboard, right? And like, actually the next 2 lines, I'm not gonna go through those lines because 3 of them don't make actually sense, kind of. But the next 2 is the horizontal and vertical value of the input object. And as you can see, if I press, right now I'm holding down, and the second number equals 1. When I press up, it goes -1. When I press left, it's -1, and right is 1. And very importantly, if I press 2 of those, it does not equal 1, but 0.71, which is very important, so that when it goes on diagonals, it's not actually going faster. And yeah, the next thing I was working on is the perspective, the isometric perspective. And one thing to point out first is that it adapts to the input, adapts to the perspective. So pressing up is going up and down the screen, even though on the game world it's actually going diagonal, because it feels better that way, I think. I may add a setting to change that, but I think this is better. And basically all it does is just draws the sprite, a sprite that better represents it isometrically at a different location, basically, and a proper isometric location. And actually the 2 numbers in parentheses, the top one is the Cartesian coordinate of the player object, and the bottom one is the isometric coordinate of the player object. And yeah, basically that's how it's achieved. And another thing I've been working on is the touch input. And basically this is the layout of the touch buttons, and there's it reacts properly. Like right now, the screen I'm recording is not multi-touch, so I can't show you that it can touch more than one area, but it works. And one thing is that if I start a touch point on one area, it won't activate anything else until I release it, and then I can touch something else. And also this other value appeared fixed. That refers to the virtual joystick, which right now it's this circle. By fixed, it means that that's the origin, and wherever I press on this area, it will be relative to the direction will be relative to that origin. It's fixed, right? And some games implement this kind of movement, and so I'm giving it as an option, and also giving another option, dynamic. On this one, the first touch point, the first time the touch point is created, that's where the origin is, and then as I drag it, it will be in relation to that the first time that touch point existed. And yeah, many games use this setup, and I'm giving it as an option. And there's a third setting, which was inspired by the Halo mobile games, the Spartan Assault and Spartan Strike, and that's adaptive. Right? I saw a video of the during one of the Microsoft Builds event, and they were talking about how they were making that game, and they described their solution. They described it as adaptive, so that's what I'm calling it. And at first, it looks just like the same as this dynamic, but once it gets beyond that circle, it starts dragging it. Basically, that circle is just the effective area. Even in dynamic, anything beyond that circle gets ignored, basically. And I think that does feel better for me on mobile devices, but I'm giving all three options and see what works best. And I've lost myself in the game world, so let me reset so I see where that's the only wall objects there are in the world right now. So and one more thing, I had mentioned that very inspired by the graphics on Sonic Battle, and so I decided to see if I can implement those, and I'm pretty happy with the results. Those are just cubes basically, and the player sprite is being done on a billboard basically, and actually this bottom strip button will be for rotating the camera on this view. It won't exist on the other view, but on this view it will rotate the camera, and that's one of the reasons that I want this kind of graphics, so I can rotate the camera around. And yeah, and I think it will make the game world feel more alive with the sound of music. And yeah, basically that's all I've done, and hopefully I'm be able to finish more of this and continue. And being, the animation works, I just don't have animated sprites, and I'm gonna put the intro screen and the intro menu and the pause menu next. And this is the pause button, and like I said, there's the rotation button on 3D, and later on I will implement these buttons, and they do work. The reason I haven't actually touched the two corners is because right now they're rigged on, for one, this one is changing what type of dynamic adaptive fixed joystick, and this one is to change the perspective. Right, so I'll be able to change it while testing it on mobile. Right, and yeah, that's all I have right now. And yeah, till the next one.